Hello students, hope you all are doing well. Today we are moving with a new topic, fire, friend and foe. Please take your textbook. We all know that fire can be both dangerous and useful. In this chapter, we will learn what fire really is and how it can be both dangerous and useful to us. Now let's move to the lesson. Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. Fire may have puzzled early man, but we now know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. When the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. So children, in the first two paragraphs, we understood that fire may have puzzled early man, is it? When man see the fire, he might have got puzzled, surprised. Puzzled means surprised or confused. When oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Now, oxygen from the air, when it combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction will happen. So that energy which is released when this chemical reaction takes place, and that is what we call as a fire. Now come to the next paragraph. Three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen and heat. Wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol are some examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flames. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. We generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. So children, there are three things required to make a fire. What are they? Fuel, oxygen and heat. Fuel is something which is required to catch fire, like wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol. Then comes oxygen gas, which can be found in the air. Is it? Oxygen is there in the air. Just we can prove this by smoldering paper, is it? Blowing on a smoldering paper. So what will happen when we blow a smoldering paper? When we blow, oxygen blows into that smoldering paper, and which makes it burst into flames. This is something which is just producing smoke. Smoldering means process of burning slowly. There will not be flame, but there will be smoke. So that's called smoldering. So when something is smoldering, you just blow air. What will happen? It will catch fire. Is it? The third and final requirement is heat. Heat is necessary for creating fire. Then the third and final requirement is heat. Okay children, fuel and oxygen, we cannot expect them to make a fire by themselves, is it? So if it was like that, newspaper or stick lying in the open would have caught fire. But we have to heat it, is it? Then only it will catch fire. And we usually do this with the help of a lighted match. We'll just light a match and we'll give fire. Then we have to wait for the things to reach its flash point. Okay, flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. That means the temperature at which it catches a fire. That's called a flashing point. Every fuel has its own flashing point, is it? For example, paper, wood, it will all have different kindling temperatures. If you have observed, you can see that paper will catch fire very sooner than wood, is it? Wood will take lot of time, but when you just try to burn a paper, it's very easy. Now let's go to the next paragraph. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our houses in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured. Just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. In each one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. So children, what it is said here, it is said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. Is it? When we are cooking food, if your finger accidentally touches on the fire, what will happen? It will get burned, is it? So you can say that fire is a good servant. It is useful for many things, but at the same time, if you're not careful about it, it will become a bad master. So we have to keep the fire under our control. And one example is given. We use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. For all these, we are using fire, is it? To cook food, then to warm our houses in winter, and to generate electricity. How fire is used to generate electricity, do you know? By boiling the water and with that steam, turbines. Okay, turbines are turned, and that pressure from that steam generates electricity. The steam turbines will be turning. Okay, children. So from there you can generate electricity. So that's what they have said. Fire can generate electricity. Then, but on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous, is it? Then what will happen? If it is out of control, it can damage a lot of things. Then it is said that each year thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire, and vast areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured. You might have heard about fire in the Amazon forest. Then, just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways by which we can control the fire. In each one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. So here, when the fuel is removed, you can cut down the fire or put out the fire. Take the next page. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fire can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flashing point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Sometimes water is sprayed on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. Now here we can see how to cut down the fire or how to put out the fire. The first way is to take away the fuel. Okay, if the fire would not have something to feed on, the fire would ultimately get extinguished. I said when something is burning, we don't add fuel. I said a paper is burning. If we add extra paper only, it will burn again. Is it? So by not adding fuel, you can cut down the fire. Now children, the second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. If no supply of oxygen means no fire. So small fire can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket. Damp means wet, or a sack. Something is burning. What if you are putting a blanket, a wet blanket on the top of it? The fire will get extinguished. That means you can put out the fire. You're cutting that oxygen supply. If it is having contact with the atmosphere, oxygen from the atmosphere, it will burn. So something is burning, and if you are putting a wet blanket on the top of it, what will happen? That will get extinguished. It will stop burning from lack of air. Smothered means lack of air. Suffocated from lack of air, that is smothered. And we can also see that from this passage, carbon dioxide is also used to extinguish fire because it does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. If you're using carbon dioxide, also you can extinguish fire, but that is not possible in real life situations always, is it? So the best method is either you can wet a blanket or a sack and put it on a burning thing so that it will get extinguished. Then the third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flashing point, the fuel stops burning. That we already knows it. When a candle is burning, you blow on a matchstick or a candle, what will happen? That hot air is removed and temperature will be low. It will be cool. So when it comes to the flashing point, below the flashing point, the candle will get extinguished. That is the third way, removing heat from that atmosphere, from that particular point. Another way of removing heat is to spray water on the fire. That we already know. Something is burning, we can extinguish it by just spraying some water. The water absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. So just like carbon dioxide, this water forms a blanket around the fire and cut out the supply of oxygen, which extinguishes the fire. So when you're spraying water, that will lowers the temperature and the fire will be extinguished. So children, here we come to the end of audio 1. Thank you.